So we're going to be doing a lot of lab in this class. So it's predominantly a lab class. So what I gave you here is you should have had a lab procedure form plus how you graded. That should be on the back. And then plus the labs that we do this semester. What else? What else do I have out here? And these are the lab forms that we'll be using. Go ahead and give y'all one of those because we're going to be in lab, work on the first lab today anyway. Huh? Step one, yeah, sorry. What's that? Let me see. Oh, no, this is a lab right here. I just went too far. Sorry. One lab form, yeah. So this is a lab procedure, and I stick to these. All labs will be done in pencil. I got tired of following road maps with pen a long time ago. Uh, Lab documents for the class are provided at no charge. These labs will eventually be published and sold to the college bookstore. The reason these labs are provided at no charge is that you have the responsibility of editing every experiment assignment for correctness and ease of understanding. So what that means is if there's something we don't understand or you have problems with, we'll try to figure out how it needs to be reworded so I don't have to do this next class. Okay? So, but you get the labs free. Before you start the experiment, the first thing you need to do is obtain a blank lab grade form. We have two classes going on in this class. We have ETC 120, which y'all are not taking, and then we have AUT 214. Sometimes the ETC 120 folder might be out here, and it's got lab forms that belong to that class. Do not use lab forms that don't belong to the class that you're registered in. By the way, the little clipboard for the class, if it's not out, it's going to be up here in this file cabinet, this storage cabinet right here. You can come over here and you can get it out and put it out for us, okay? If I don't already have it out. Okay, so this says AUT 214, which is the class you're taking, RMCS, which is Robot Manufacturing and Computer Simulation. So this is the clipboard for this class. So the first thing you got to do is get a blank lab form. Do not use lab forms for other classes. Fill in the required information at the top of the lab form. Before starting the lab, write your name and the space provided on the title page of the experiment along with the experiment number and the title in the lab form. So you see the lab form has a space for your name. What else does it have? Yeah, the experiment number and the title. That way, if somehow these don't ever leave here. You can take your labs home, but don't forget them because if you do, you'll have to run yourself off a copy, right? I'll give you the first copy. We're charged. Our department is charged for every copy we make. Even if I run them in my office, we're charged for every piece of paper that I use. That comes out of our budget. So make sure you put it in that way. If this, and what you do is these don't ever leave. If you want to leave your labs here, that's fine too. We have two boxes up here. You can see them on the top of this cabinet, and this is where they stay. One of them should be labeled AUT 214, labs ready to be graded, and the other one is labs not ready to be graded. So to prevent from getting lost, if you don't want to take these labs home, the lab forms don't leave. Y'all understand that? Because this is your official grade. This lab form is what we keep up with your official grade on. But if you want to go ahead and staple this to the lab and keep it up in this not ready to be graded so you won't lose it, then that'll be fine. Not having your lab grade form with the required information filled out will deduct from the grade. And then, of course, what you'll do at the start of every lab is you'll sign out a hardware key. So there'll be a sign-off sheet. We'll have the box set out with a sign-off sheet. This does not stay out here, by the way. This stays in my office. And it's in the lab. What do you do? You're going to return it and sign it in, right? Labs are due at the start of the next class meeting after the last instructor sign-off. 10 points will be deducted from the lab grade for each weekday the experiment is turned in late. So what happens is when you finish that thing off and you bring your lab form up to me, I'll put a due date on there. And then that's, if you bring it back to the next class, you have no problem. If you don't take it back to the next class, then you'll lose 10 points for every class that's not turned in. By the way, I have a mailbox upstairs. So if I'm not here, of course, I'm teaching a day class, and it's over in A building, in room A210, by the way. So you can turn it into me there, or you can come in and put it in my mailbox upstairs. So if you come in upstairs, there's a desk there, and if you look over the desk, there's a bin. It's made out of wood, but it's got my name on it. When a sign-off or help is needed, bring the lab grade form, experiment, and your USB drive to the instructor's desk. So you're going to be saving everything on your USB drive. So if you need help with the application, then you can just come up here, and I can show you how to do it up here. But if you want something signed off, and what you're going to do, it's real hard for me to get in and out of these desks. So what you're going to do is you're going to save it onto your USB thumb drive. You're going to bring your thumb drive up here to my desk along with the lab form, and then I'll plug it into my computer, and I can check it from my computer. So I don't have to come to your computer to check your progress. All you got to do is just do what? Bring it to the thumb drive. Everybody okay there? Have any problem? Have the instructor check your progress. It says, have the instructor check your progress at each instructor sign-off. Skipping over an instructor sign-off will result in a 10-point deduction on the lab grade for each sign-off miss. You may have to go back and repeat the procedure step even after the deduction has been made. Now, the problem we have is that we're dealing with a manual that is not a lab book. The labs are in there. But we're going to be doing things, and everything we do is going to build on something that you did previous. So that means if you do something previous wrong, and then you do something after that, then you do something after that, then you do something after that, and all of it was based on the first thing that you did, then everything's screwed up now. So the way the lab is set up is it says you need to stop at this procedure step. You need to, and it's not going to be in the lab. It's not going to be in the book. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make sure that you notice where I want you to stop at. And when you get to the procedure step in that book, you need to stop and bring your thing up here and let me check to make sure everything is okay so far. But it's not going to be in the lab, and this is where we have a problem with this class is people get involved with the book that tells you how to do it, and they totally forget where I want you to stop and bring your stuff up here to make sure everything's okay at that point. Go ahead. So I have a lab where I sign stuff up on. You're going to be using a book that's a PDF that's on the internet. Yeah, the lab sheet. So I'm going to give you a lab. In fact, I can go ahead and give it out now. This is the first lab we're going to do. It tells you exactly what step you're supposed to stop at. But the problem we have in this class is people ignoring my lab. And they'll be following those procedure steps, and they'll just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. They get all the way through. Then they bring it up here and want me to sign off. And that's not going to work, because now, and why I require that is because everything you do builds on something you did before, right? You understand? And so what you do is you bring your lab up and everything's screwed up. And what do you got to do now? You got to delete everything and go back and do the whole dang lab over. So what we do is we take care of this as we go through. So if you got something wrong here, we'll go ahead and correct it, or if I tell you what you need to do, right, you understand. And then what? Then you go back and correct it, and then the next step, you're not going to have that problem. But where it tells you to stop is not going to be in the manual for the actual course, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. In fact, on this lab, we have so many people that skip this over. I actually highlighted in yellow marker that says where I want you to do what. Stop, yeah. What you'll do is we're going to show you how to save your file, save your job to your USB thumb drive, and we're going to show you how to, bring it up here. Of course, I don't have to show you how to bring it up here. Lab grade forms for labs not completed must be turned in to the instructor at the end of the session so the students progress can be verified. The lab grade forms will be returned at the next lab session. At the end of each lab session, what you're going to do in that lab form is you're going to document the amount of time you spent on that lab that day. Okay. You're going to make sure your computer is logged off. You're going to make sure that your chair is lit up. This is one of the most, anytime they have a tour that comes through this campus, this is one of the labs they come in and look at. And it's especially been true since we added the mechatronics over there. You're going to slide the keyboard tray into the storage. You're going to return and sign in your hardware key. When we get over to the MotoMan, we're going to make sure, and this is a class, by the way, this is a class assignment because you might not be the last one, but before we leave, we're going to make sure this guy's what? Robot is parked at 0 position. We're going to make sure that the air supply is turned off when it's used. We're going to activate the stop on the T-pendant, and we're going to make sure your work area is tidy before you leave. Everybody okay? Lab questions at the end of the lab. These must be answered individually. Do not copy another team member's work. Plagiarism will result in a 0 for all members involved. I'm not going to worry about who copies who or whatever copies this. So if you let somebody copy your work, then you're just as guilty as the person that's doing the copying. Y'all understand that? When I was taking classes at Jeff State, I was taking a biology class, and about 8 students says, "Well, let's get together and look at our labs and stuff like that." And then we got over there. They wanted to copy my lab book. That's a true story. I lost a lot of respect for a lot of my classmates that day. So they wanted me to do the work, and they wanted to get credit for it. And then you have people that copy, and I can't ever understand. They think their instructors or something are stupid. So we grade these things at the same time. So I wait till everybody turns in lab 1, and I grade lab 1 at the same time. And for some reason, people think that they can copy word for word, and it don't pop in our mind that we've read that before. We were teaching a class, and if you've had PLCs, intro to PLCs or digital, we teach a numbering system called hexadecimal, and it has numbers from 0 to F. And one of the guys wrote down a 6, but he didn't close the 6 up, and it looked like a G. And I could tell which one it was. We had 3 people that copied and wrote it down as a G. There's no such thing as a G in the hexadecimal numbering system. But they wrote it down as an uppercase G when we were doing number system conversions. I'll never forget that as long as I live. So make sure you don't copy those things, and don't even copy out of a book. You need to plagiarize. You need to reword it. Once you complete an experiment, staple the lab grade form to the top of the experiment. from the lab book. Make sure the experiment pages are in the correct order. Place the complete lab into the what? AUT, 212, that's wrong. 214, the lab to be graded. Do not forget to write your name on at the space provided on the lab form or the lab experiment page, title page. These labs are to remain in the student's folder during the entire term. Experiments turned in for grading may be viewed upon request if required to complete another lab, and that's not going to be true here. The completed lab assignments will be returned at the end of the semester if you want them. So what I do is I keep the lab form, which is your official grade record, and if you want the labs back, you can have them. Of course, I still have labs from last semester, but I haven't given back yet. So that's the lab procedure. Got any problems with that? Except for the one class. After that, of course, you should have how the grade point, how I subtract grades. And then after that, you should have the lab assignments. So we have 9 lab assignments. Creating a basic work cell, teaching editing and playback using previously created work cells. We're going to develop we're going to set up a model of the HP3 robot, and you're going to design your own gripper model, or actually make your own gripper model. You're not going to design it. What you'll do is you'll go over there and make those measurements, right? You understand, and then you'll enter those in the table. We're going to learn how to transfer a program to the NXT or NX100 controller, which is the controller on the robot. We're going to start adding an upper and a lower floor. So now our work cell is going to, if you ever went over to the Motoman, it's got a lower floor where the robot's actually at, and it's got an upper floor where it's got the workpiece. Show you how to do that. But we still don't have the walls, right? So we'll do a floor. We're going to make the floors the right size. You know how to change the size of the floors on the model. Then we'll come over and we'll check it to make sure it's correct. Then we'll learn how to importing a job from the NXT controller into MotoSim. So what we'll do first of all is we'll learn how to put a program over there in the controller, and then we'll learn how to take a program that's over there and bring it into MotoSim and make corrections on it, and then do what? Then we can take it over and put it back on there. So what would happen if I'm thinking about changing maybe a piece of work piece, and the job is exactly the same, the only thing that's going to change is a few points, then I can keep that robot making the old piece and do what? Come back in and modify the program, and then come in the next day and upload it into the robot, put my new work piece out there, and check to make sure it's okay on the real robot, and then we're back in production. So like I said, Mercedes, 3,000 robots 1 week to upload all those programs. 3,000 robots. And the only way they could possibly do that is what? If they simulate those programs or those sales. And they do. I thought that was amazing. Only 300 cars to verify everything's perfect. So that's the lab procedures. Everybody okay? Any questions there? Also, I've got a oh, I need to make that correction before I do this. What was that? So let's go ahead and y'all go ahead and load in Blackboard. And then go to your Blackboard site for the class. And I really hope that y'all sign up for that Remind thing. That's really, really neat. Like I said, it's a free application where you can text me, I can text you. I don't ever see your phone number. You don't ever see mine. Of course, I get your phone number when you do your syllabus quiz. If you don't, if you're uncomfortable with doing it yourself, which I wish you would, then all you can do, and it don't count against you. If you look at the syllabus quiz, the first thing I ask for is your phone number that we can contact you with. And then the second thing I ask you is, would it be okay if I enter the information in Remind? It's up to you. That thing, you got a yes and no, and don't make any difference which one you answer. You get that question right. So if you don't want me to do that, I won't do it. But I would prefer that you do it yourself. Take a little bit of work off me. So you can go ahead if you want to answer yes, and if you do it yourself, I'll go up there and check that to see if you've signed up for it. And what's real neat, I can send text to the whole class. Everybody that signs up, I can send one text to everybody at the same time, or I can send a text strictly to you. It's really a neat application. And like I said, it's no pop-ups, no advertising, because whoever did this is strictly for educational institutions. So y'all got Blackboard up yet? Okay, then you look on the left-hand side. There should be one that says manuals or something like that. And in there you should have the Modus MEG manual, plus the manuals on the robot too. So here's the user. Yeah, let's see. No, the instruction manual. So this guy is actually two manuals, and I split them up for you. The first manual is just basically how to install the software and all that other kind of stuff. So we don't really need to look at this. So introduction, custom services, and this is going to how to install the software, give you an introduction to it, how to install the software. Let's go ahead and there's some installation and safety that you're going to be required to come out and use. I mean, we're in such a sewing society that if you go out and buy a blender down at Walmart and you get the operation manual on it, what's the first thing they're going to have in there? Safety. You go out and buy a new TV, safety. So we put this in the manual, of course. Then, of course, now you're responsible for that. And if you get hurt because you stick your hand in the blender, then there's something in there that says don't stick your hand in the blender, right? Out at U.S. Steel, they called it. They used to call it SJPs. I don't know, safe job procedures. Did they change that? And they had an SJP for everything. And so if you got hurt out there at U.S. Steel, it's a high probability it was whose fault? Yours, huh? Yeah, using knives, screwdrivers, staplers. And Rich got his own. I had a wreck out there in one of our boss's car, and there wasn't an SJP out there that covered. We had our own vehicle. We could go off base, and we could go off plant. We covered Inslee. We covered several of the places in electronics, and yeah. But the problem, we had one vehicle that was we had what they call a mule, which was it was a vehicle that we used in plant. In fact, they put those together at U.S. Steel. I don't know if they were still out there. And then we had one vehicle. It was a really nice vehicle because our other one got run over. And I think it was a GMC Jimmy. It was a really nice vehicle. And then we only had one of those. And it came an opportunity where that vehicle was out being used by one of our crew. And we had another call that came in that was pretty important. So one of the bosses out there said we could drive his car. Yeah, but it was his personal car that he left at the plant all the time. and the shocks on the thing was awful. It blocked the drive on the ground. You ever seen those cars that just bounce all the time because the shocks are so bad? So we were shooting across all the railroad tracks that were behind the blast furnace. I mean, not the blast furnace, the Q-Bops. One of those big old Ute trucks that haul stuff around came over there, and we moved over to the side because it could get by. And we got over toward the edge of the road, and the bottom of the car caught on the top of one of the crowns of one of the railroad tracks. And that car stopped, dead stopped. I was driving, and I hit the steering wheel and busted my lip. The other guy didn't have on his seatbelt, and he hit the glass, but he didn't tell him he did. Because Henry was so short, he had the seat so close to the steering wheel, it was right under my mouth, and he kept so much junk in the back, you couldn't slide the seats back. But it'd been O. Henry's car like this, and it totaled his car. Last time we saw it, they was hauling it off in one of those big old forklifts that split in the middle. I mean, the huge ones. But Henry was, so the next time it came up, we wanted to drive one of our cars. The foreman at the time said, I'll let you drive this, Rich, but as long as you promise not to wreck it. And I said, I'm not going to promise not to wreck your car. I'm at U.S. Steel, you know. And he wouldn't let me go. He made us wait. But, yeah, they got my own. So if you ever read one about driving vehicles on plan, it says, watch out for excessive overhang on railroad tracks. That's Rich's. That's my SJP. That was not in there. So they didn't have one for me. So where are we at? Oh, I X out my thing. So we're looking at the next manual. So you're going to be responsible for safety questions. There's going to be some questions in, I don't remember if it's in the lab or not, but it's in there somewhere. So we're going to look at the operation manual. First of all, one thing, are y'all really familiar with the Windows operating system? Well, we need to learn about this guy right here. I'm going to have to slide this up just a little bit. So we need to know, we call this guy here a window, right? You understand? And then these are pretty standard things. What's this bar right there? It's called the title bar. What's this bar right here called? This is called the menu bar. So we gotta learn this, because so when I gave you that quick reference, you need to know this, because it says this is located on the menu bar. This is located on this right here. Notice it refers to this as the toolbar. Windows calls this the ribbon. So in your quick reference, since they refer to this as the toolbar in the MotoSim documentation, this is what we refer to it here. So on that quick reference, or in the manual, when they start talking about the toolbar, then you know where to look for it at, right? Of course, this is the window, or the production area, and this guy down at the bottom, this is called the task bar. I'm sorry, the status bar, but that's not. This is the task bar right here. The task bar is Windows application. So all we're talking about is this right here. So everything that we're going to do as far as making models and all this kind of stuff is going to be either an icon on the toolbar, or it's going to be a listing in the menu bar up here. Okay, that makes sense. Of course, we won't talk about the title bar very often, but Everybody okay? Menu, tool, and then the status would be on the bottom of the window if it's got one. I don't know. Menu bar. Yeah, this whole thing is tools. And we have a lot of tools out here to run this. So normally it's two layered. You can move them around, set them up the way you want them on your computer if you change computers. By the way, this is why y'all going to have to make sure that you leave at least, you can bring your laptop in if you got one and you want to, because you're going to be doing two things. You're going to be you're going to be accessing the application, and you're also going to be reading this manual on and you can't do if you have them and get them up there all at once, this doesn't automatically reduce. So if I come over here and change the size of this window, yeah, it does. You get to a point where you can't do it. You leave two spaces, and on one computer, do what? Bring the manual up, and you can turn it around. Just make sure you put it back when you leave, right? Or you can bring your laptop. But Bobana could come over here and do what? She could swing one around. Of course, it'd be hard. You might because of this. And on this one, she could be having the manual, and on that one, she can have the application running. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that. Because if you try to have both of them, or you try to go between the two, then that's going to give you a problem. And we got plenty of computers in here for this class. So we okay? Okay, so everybody understand that. In fact, I made my menu bar jump all over the place. So what I'm doing, of course, is I'm just, this might all fit on one, so it's up to you, especially on my screen. And the more tools you have together, then, and we're going to explain all these tools, as we go through. Some of them are obvious, some of them are not. Some of them you've seen before, some of them you hadn't seen before. Good gracious. So it didn't like me when I didn't do it full screen. It rearranged my toolbar for me. And then when I went back to full screen, it left it the way it rearranged. Are we okay? What's this? Menu bar. This is the toolbar. Yeah, it is the ribbon, but when we're going to use the name in this class. I'll try to use the name. We're going to try to use toolbar because that's the way it's referenced in all the Motosim manuals. By the way, these little scroll bars down on here mean nothing. They don't come into play at all. What you do. So let's talk about some of them here. So this is what you get when you first start. And then it's going to take you through. So what we have, and I'll go ahead and do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, and we're going to create a what? What do you think? New cell project. And then what it's going to ask me to do? Give it a name. Of course, by default, it's going to stick you inside the cell folder on the C drive. So the first thing you're going to do is what? You're going to point this to your USB drive. And it should be in that reference, I hope. So how would I point this to my USB drive? Well, yes or no, but you got several ways to do it. Instead of going here on the left-hand side, I just use the scroll bar. Everything on my computer is in the scroll bar. And we call this the scroll bar right here, right? A scroll. So what I would do is, hopefully, if it finds that, I'll just come up here. So this is where I usually do it. And then I would point it to my USB drive, which I don't see. This one's busted up. It might not work. You can use my computer, that's fine. I mean, it's up to you. But if you don't, you're going to put it on my hard drive. And then when it comes time, or the college's hard drive, and then you bring your USB stick up here, and I stick it in there, and there's no work cells on there, right? Which is not good. So I'll just put it right here right now. And of course, this should be blank. Your USB drive should be blank. You should get one that you're going to leave here, right? So we'll get a piece of masking tape or something and let you put your name on it. And then I keep them in my office in there. Well, that's not true. This is the main box right here. And what's going to be in here is going to be the sign-off sheet where you come in here and you sign off these keys. So y'all come over and get y'all one. I'll let y'all go ahead and open up the application. You don't have to sign it out now. You just give it back to me when you leave. You notice they have a number on them. Not only do they have a number on the key, they also have a number on the cap. What I want you to do is, I don't want you to take the cap back to your desk. I've got one right here, the cap is lost. When you pick it up, I want you to take the cap off and drop the cap back in the box. The cap has a number on it, and the what, and the key has a number on it. The cap and the number match. Because these things get knocked off, they get under these tables right here. In fact, this guy is probably under one of these tables somewhere. So let's go ahead and look at this. So we'll go ahead and there should be a ModaSim. So put your USB thumb drive in one of your USB ports on the front of the computer. I don't know where it's at, so you might need to just move right now. And leave enough space so y'all can get to the manual. So what we'll probably do today when we work on the lab is we'll go ahead and I'll let you use one of my USB sticks today, and then when you bring yours in, we'll copy them over, okay? Because we're going to start on this today. Y'all see the ModaSim on your desktop? Yeah. Should look like, it's not on mine. Should be ModaSim EG, that's it. On the desktop somewhere, it's blue. Double click. Yeah, to launch something from the desktop, you're going to have to double click. It wasn't on that one. It's on the front of the computer. It's on the computer. That's just, yeah. Oh, sorry. That's a different one. ModaSim. It is. Looks like a lot, Vincent, a little man with a bat. You see it said? It might not be on that computer. That computer was added. Yeah, just move to that one. Go ahead, use it. The only reason it's got do not use on it is that we have an application called Electronic Workbench, and it only works on Windows XP. I've got Windows 7 on my computer, so I remote into that computer during my solid state class. But if I remote into it, nobody can be using it, right? So it's fine to use for this class. So even though it says do not use, you can use it. Said you're special. Yeah, special. Said. And when you load it up, it should come up on my desktop, but the icon might be the same. Yeah, so it looks like that. So you should have one of these on your desktop somewhere. Did it let you switch users? Okay, good luck. Hopefully I logged off. If I didn't log off, then it won't let you do it. But y'all go ahead and take a break. Y'all take a 10-minute break. I'll log off of it too. I'll have to move this so that jumps to the bottom because I won't need to draw anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this project. So new cell project. Okay, then what do? I come up here and I give it a name, or I can point it first. And then what I do is I come up here and then I go to my USB drive and then I save it on there. And I just messed up. Me. Oh, gosh, dog, I hate this. So if you put the record on top, then you can't get to this. If you put, but I think they said it saved the college like $40,000. So I can understand why they did it. Now mine's not blank. Okay. So this guy here changes, by the way. This is what I'm going to show you. So right now, when I go to File, it says what? It says New File Project. You also can do it on the menu bar right here. So it does the same thing. They're right on top of each other, so I don't know why I did that. Okay, so New File Project. I'm going to come up here and come up with a name. Okay, and then I'm going to point it to, make sure I point it toward my what? Yeah, to my USB drive, and then I'm going to say okay. Now the first thing that happens is it pops in just a floor, a big floor, and of course this is what we're going to work from. Okay, everybody understand that? Now when I did this, and we'll look at this along the way. What it did on my USB drive is it automatically created a folder with that name, First Cell. Okay, see that? Okay. And everything about this work cell is going to be placed in this folder. Okay. You want to do that. So right now we don't have a bunch of stuff on there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stick a robot into this thing. Where do you think? How do you think we stick a robot in this thing? That's a good idea. So robot, and what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to add a robot. What pops up next is all the different controllers that Motoman makes, and we have the NX100, but we're not going to do that. I don't forget which one it starts us with, but we can come up here and just arbitrarily choose one of these things, and then what it does is this shows us all the robots that are controlled by that controller. Okay. So I'm going to import the model, and I'm going to open it. Let's see if I did that right. Now, all parameters, that's when and then it's going to say, okay, what do you want to call this robot? By default, it's going to give you the name of the actual robot model, right? But if you were doing this, you could say this is the production robot, this is the welding robot, this is welding robot number 3, or anything you want to call it. Right here, I'll just take the default. And what it does is it automatically puts an animated model of the robot in the work cell, puts it in the center of the work cell, and I can move it around, right? Does that make sense? We're not going to show you how to move it. And of course, it gives you, now let's say I wanted to make it bigger. Well, that's what all this stuff is right here, right here. This is the way we move the robot in the work cell. So right now, notice it's got an axis that says I'm going to rotate it. So notice if I come in here, now what I'm doing is I'm doing what we call a drag. Y'all know how to do a drag in Windows? You hold the left mouse button down, right? Left mouse button, and then you move it. That's called a drag. Well, here when I drag it, I can't do anything vertically. All I can do is rotate it what? Okay. If I wanted to do it in all different types of angles, I would choose that. So now we can do this kind of stuff like that, right? You'll see that? If I wanted to move it up and down, I'm going to use that. Now the only thing I can do is just move it like this. I use that a lot because these scroll bars on Windows means nothing. So if you want to move the robot, you're going to have to use one of these things up here. Now this one is really neat. See the window around there? This is the zoom function. So what I can do is I can come up here and I can drag a window around what I want to zoom in, and it zooms in for us. Okay. And what it's doing is this guy right here is showing us the world frame. So he's showing us plus Z is up, minus plus Y is to the right, and plus X is toward me. This is showing us the tool frame. So right now, where's the tool at? It's going to be in the center of the robot's mounting flange, right? And of course, that's where we're going to put our tool at. So you're going to make a model that puts a tool there. Now, as soon as I did that, what happened on my drive inside that first cell, it automatically stuck 2 folders in. This is the project. So everything you do, this guy right here tells MotoSim how to put the cell together. If you delete that file, you're screwed. This is the model of the robot. So this is the actual true model of the robot. And how did that get in there? That's when you imported the robot. The other folder is the models folder. By default, the only model in there right now is the floor model. So every model you build and every model that you import that's already been built is going to be put in this folder right here. The model files in with an MDL extension. Now, MotoSim deals, so we store 2 things on mass storage devices. We either store programs or we store documents or stuff used by programs, right? You understand. Now, how does the operating system know the difference? It knows the difference by that little old tiny thing right there. You'll see floor.mdl. We call that a file extension. Normally, by default, Windows turns that off. So when all your programs are either EXEs or COMs. So when I loaded WordPerfect or Microsoft Office, I could go into that folder somewhere in there is going to be something like a word.exe. So all your files that have EXEs on them are programs, and everything else is stuff used by a program, right? Our DLL files, those are subroutines. Those are what we call program modules. A data link library is a program segment that can be used by any program, which is pretty neat. So if I'm writing a program for Windows, instead of me developing a spell checker program, I can use a spell checker program that's already out there. That makes sense. So data link libraries are not, they got DLL extensions. Those are not true standalone programs. Those are subprograms. So DLLs, these are programs. EXEs, these are programs. COMs, these are programs. Everything else are documents used by programs. So what you do is we have the ability to set up what we call a file association, which means I come up here and look at those. So what I have is I have Windows displaying the file extensions. And you can do that in your folder view options. So if I come into any one of these, this is an EWB, this is an electronic workbench drawing. So when I installed electronic workbench in my program, it automatically associated EWBs to that program. Does that make sense? So now if I double click on a file that is not a program, it would automatically launch the application that belongs to that program. So that's why we can double click on docs, we can double click on Excel documents, and it automatically loads in Excel. Okay. So what they do here is inside this manual, they're going to talk about file extensions. This is not a program. MotoSim is the program. So if I go in and I look at the MotoSim program, which is files, and here's a MotoMan, and then I look at MotoSim EG. These are programs. See, that's a program, that's a program. These are DLLs, data link libraries. Those are sub-programs, right? You understand that MotoSim calls in when it needs them. And here's the main program right there. Somewhere, MotoSim EG, that's the guy right there. But when we start talking about these different files, so right now your computer should have file extensions turned on so you can view them. And if it don't, then what you could do is you could go to Control Panel, and then somewhere in Control Panel is Folder Options. By the way, Windows 7 don't pop this up, but you can go down in the little Katrina text box down there, or Windows 10, and type in Folder Options, and it'll bring it up and let you turn on the extension. And then we go to View, and by default, it says Hold File Extensions for known files. So anything that's been associated with an application will not display. Notice it should be turned off on your computer, because Windows is going to deal with it. They're going to say, okay, load in a model file. Well, how do you know it's a model file? Because it's going to have the MDL extension. But if you don't have those turned on, what you're going to see is just a bunch of file names out there, and you don't know which ones are model files and which ones are programs and all that kind of stuff, right? So if these extensions do not show up on the computer that you're on, they should have already been turned on by the class. But we have never had, this class has never used all the computers. So odds are there's a good chance that some of these computers, these extensions are not going to show up. So the file name is one thing, but the extension tells the operating system what the file does, right? Does it belong to a program, or is it a program? So if I go into the docs folder and just go to any one of these things and go to, that's not the one I want to go to. Let's go to this class, robot courses, and then go to, have you ever double clicked on a file and it comes up, a window pops up and says there's no program associated with this thing? You got to be real careful, because if you don't look, there's a little check box that says always use this program. And if you click that, then it's going to always use that program, and even if it's the wrong one, right? And we don't have time. I can show you how to do all that, turn that off. But these are the handouts. So there's that procedure. They all end with a DOC or DOX. So what happens is there's a file association set up with this. So when I install Office, it set up a file extension. So all I do is I can double click on that, and it automatically launches the what? The application that file belongs to. And you can associate them yourself too. It's in that file folder option section over there. So that means if you have an association set up with electronic work, with MotoSim, I don't know if it's set up on most computers or not. You could double click on like the cell file, and it will automatically load MotoSim. I think I have that set up on my disk. But that's what's inside there. So what is this .cll right there? That is not a program. It would have an exe, or it would have so when I load in a project, it takes that file, and that file right there tells MotoSim how to assemble that work cell. Where the models go, what model goes in, what robot model are we bringing in, and all that other kind of stuff. If this guy right here is not part of your work cell, then you don't have a work cell. That's the guy that tells MotoSim how to put that work cell together. Y'all understand that? Inside there, you better have a robot folder. because that holds the model of the robot. And then inside that folder, you should have a models folder that holds all the models that are besides the robot models that are used inside that work cell. You cannot copy, you cannot paste, you cannot delete using Windows. The biggest problem we have in this class is people knowing a little bit about Windows and they want to do something. They want to rename this thing, and they go up there and they rename it. They try to rename it right there. You cannot rename a cell with Windows. You have to do everything through MotoSim, everything that you can do. Now, you can copy a whole work cell, and you can rename the whole work cell, but that's not going to rename that file right there. So I can come back and I can copy that folder right there. I can delete that folder. I can copy that folder. I can copy, I can delete it, I can do what I want to with that folder. I can rename the folder, but you're not renaming the cell, you're just renaming the folder. Everybody understand that? Okay. Now, if I want to use the same models, then I could come up here and go to new, and notice what it's going to do. It's going to create another CEL file inside the same folder. If I want to create a whole new work cell, then by George, you better come up and do what? Close this one out and save it, and then now that file changes to new cell project. So if I create a new cell project, it gets its own folder, it gets its own robot folder, it gets everything on that belongs to that work cell. If I just want to use the same work cell, then I can create another cell file down in there. That makes sense? So yeah, so we have a lot of labs that we do after that cell right there has been created, and I don't want to create a new cell every time, so I just create a new cell inside the same project folder. So if I came over here, let me go open it. By the way, what's nice about this open right here? No, I thought it did. I guess I'm wrong. Oh, right here, if you go to Files, notice what it does. It shows a list of the last few projects. Do you need me, Dr. Crawford? Okay. It shows a list of the last few sales that you had open. So I can come up here and do what? Instead of trying to find it now, I can just come up here and just click on that, and it should bring in the project. But if I go here now and say new, and then I type in something else, okay, it brings in a new thing, right? You understand that. But if I go over here and look inside that folder now, this new cell project is going to be inside. See, I still have only project folder called what? Yeah. And now if I go in here, there's another cell project in here. I thought it was. Oh, let's see. Let me see if I need to. Dang it. Yeah, I didn't save it. I thought it created it right off the bat. Still not doing it. I'll have to figure that out. So what you want to do, if you want to create a new cell, you need to do a new project. You need to close that one out and save it. Make sure you save it. We have that happen a lot too. Yeah. Well, yes and no. If you save it and it hadn't been saved, it's going to give you the do you want to save option. But the problem we have in this class is that you don't want to close the cell out when you bring your drive up to me, right? You understand? So I recommend you do that, but if I come up here and make any changes, so if I come up here and make any changes at all, even if I change the orientation of the robot, it's going to come back and have, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the one I was working on. And it's still there, by the way. They're still open. In other words, if I minimize this one, I'm sorry. I thought it was. Oh, I did. So what I'm saying, if you do any changes and you come up here and you exit this out, it's going to didn't do that. Well, I didn't make any true changes. I thought it kept the orientation. Oh, wrong thing. If I open up this, it comes up in this what? Shows me the last ones that's been open. No, yeah, if I come up here and switch over to that one, yeah, that's green. So this floor comes in automatically, and it's added automatically. Of course, right now all we got is a .cel folder, and it should have a model folder, and then when you import the robots, you get that folder in there. But what you need to do is before you bring your USB drive out to me, is you need to make sure you save it before you bring it up here. This happens all the time in this class too, where they do it back here and they forget to save it. They'll bring me their USB drive up here and plug it in, and none of their work's on there. Okay, that's not a big deal. I just tell you to go back and do it. What I usually recommend, what I recommend is, I think it's in the lab, is that you close and save. And why I want you to close and save is sometimes I'll make corrections up here for you, and you still got yours opened up out there. Well, now the corrections won't be in there unless you do what? Unless you reload it. What else do I want to show y'all? No, normally when you do anything, let me just stick a robot model in here. We'll stick another one. Uh, we'll use one of these. There's the HPJ3. That's the one we're going to use. That's our robot. So we have an HPJ3 robot over there. We're not going to use that to start off with. You're going to use the robot that's part of that. So what happens now if I come up here and hit this, what's it going to say? Well, see, so you don't have to save it and then close it, because if you've made any modifications to the cell, it's going to do what? It's going to say, do you want to save it? And then, of course, I can say yes. And now what can I do? I can pull my USB thumb drive out, and you can bring it up here. And then once you set up the path, then you don't. If you use this one, it's going to always ask you to do this. If you come up here and use File, then what's it going to do is it's going to show you the work cells that you were working on, right? And then instead of going through the path, then all you got to do is come down through here. Notice it's already got the location of the file, and then we can come up here and bring that work cell in. That makes sense? Okay, what else do I want to show you? So what we're going to do on the first thing is you're going to import a robot into the work cell. You're going to, and it's going to take you through that. And where's the first place you're supposed to stop at? So this should be in this manual. So if you got your manual up, so we're fixing to start working on labs, guys. I think it's down here where it says, yeah, it's going to be down here in section 2. It should tell you where, to what? Yeah, but what does it say? Go to step 2 dot. Yeah, by the way, the links on this work, which is really neat. So what you can do is you can come over here and just click on that, and it's going to take you to that section. And so this is the first work cell that we're going to build. I forgot what robot this is, but it's going to tell you which controller to use. It's going to tell you which robot to use. right? Then you're probably going to have to bring it up to me, and I'm going to make sure you got the robot. Then you're going to build these models right here. By the way, models are not really complicated. Uh, uh, all this is just going to be a cube, right? So cubes, you specify colors and all that kind of stuff. Then you're going to build the actual workpiece. So this is basically a stand you're going to build right here. And it steps you through that, but you got to understand is that you need to pay attention to what you're doing. Don't just blindly follow instructions and then have no idea what you need to do, because as we move along, I'm going to take for granted you already know how to do this. So if I say import a model, this model, I'm going to take for granted you know how to do that. So if you blindly follow instructions and don't comprehend what you're doing, it's like when my son was a kid, we bought him an electronic project kit, and he followed those instructions to the T, and he put these circuits together, and he had no idea what they did, but he built them correctly. So that's what we're talking about, you know. So if it tells you how to insert a robot, you need to know that you're going to have to do this what again. And I'm not going to give you step-by-step instructions. Now, we do have a quick reference there. I know this is a new software package, and odds are you can look on there and it tells you, it steps you through adding a robot, right? You understand? But I would like for you to start, but that's going to take time. Every time you look up stuff to figure out how to do it. So if you keep having to come back here to learn how to write a robot, you're not going to get done with these labs, right? It's just like reading the driver's manual and learning street signs. Well, if you got to take that driver's manual around with you all the time and keep reading what to do, you're not going to get anywhere very fast, right? Or you're going to have a lot of wrecks. So are we ready to start this? We're going to construct this work cell, this guy right here. We're not going to put any walls around it. We're just going to stick the robot out there in the center. We're going to come in here and we're going to build a torch model to start off with. And then we're going to move over to a torch model that's provided by Mercedes. Not by Mercedes, by Motofilm. And then we're going to write a program that's going to simulate a weld around this, and we're going to learn stuff as we go along. And then once we got that, then we should be pretty good shape to start moving on with some other labs. Are we okay? All right, gang. Y'all go ahead and start. Go ahead. USB drives are not all built the same. Sometimes computers won't find them. So,